Well, welcome to our house, y'all. I'm so excited to talk adoptions, talk building families by faith, and just to hear your family story about how God has really built your family. And so, thank y'all for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I'm Amy Cavalier.
I'm Sam and Cavalier.
What led us to adoption? I had a partial hysterectomy at the age of 29 due to endometriosis. So I knew even before I met him and before we got married that I was going to be unable to have biological children. So I knew I would either not have children or I would adopt. And I hoped and prayed that the man God brought me to would feel the same way and wouldn't be like, oh, I want my own child or I want my child to be my blood.
She told me, she was like, I can't have kids, so if you want to leave, I understand. I say, well, it's okay. It's not your fault. That was a design for God. I'm not here for just that. I'm here for you. So, I said, we'll get through it and we'll get to a point we'll talk about more. We will talk about it more when we get to that. Like I said, when I met her, I fell in love with her. So it wasn't just about kids. It was about us connecting. Because I also told her that she had turned my life around and brought me back to God. Because I felt like I had got away from that path. Just a lot that was going on in my life. And when I met her, she was very godly, and she was like, I want to go to church and get back into church. And I was like, me too. And we started doing that.
Then in 2017, I wanted to make where they could take my eggs and freeze them and we could get a surrogate, or I could just take it all out and go as I please. And I had 2 weeks to pretty much make this decision, and we talked about it and we prayed about it, and God led us to the point where there is a child that is out there that is going to need a family, and we can do that instead of having a surrogate and having our own child, that we could give a child a life that they possibly may not have. 2018, 2 little girls, and they were what, 4 and 6?
4 and 6. 4 and 6 at that time.
Yeah, and we had them for a year, and we had custody of them.
I was gonna say that was the beginning. That was kind of like our first look into being parents.
And God preparing us to be parents.
We did a lot of things like parents would do for them, going to school events, awards ceremonies, and just teaching them different things about life in general. The oldest one, she was so used to being the mother figure for her siblings that when me and Amy had them, when her little sister would start crying, she was trying to console her and do like a normal mother would do to their child. And Amy told her, you don't have to do that. We are here now. We are your parents, and you have to be a child now. And she broke down and started crying because
she didn't have to be a mom anymore. She could be a 6-year-old.
And that was her first time really feeling secured, that she could remember.
Yeah. And it was a long, we had temporary custody of them through the court, but it was a constant battle where their parents were still fighting for custody, and we'd have to take them to see their parents every weekend, like once on a weekend for 2 hours, and
they would make it easy.
Unfortunately, in August of 2018, the court, which nobody expected that to happen, they gave custody back to their parents. And I remember sitting there in the courtroom, and he had said it, and they're screaming and yelling, yay. And I look at him, and I'm in shock, it's not clicking in. And then I look at him, and he's just got tears rolling down his face. He didn't say, he just started crying. And you know, we had, that was in the morning, the court case was, and then we had to go 5 o'clock, we had to turn them over to them. When that car drove away, I like hit the ground, and I told my husband, I told Sam, I said, go back, go get my children, you have to go after her, you have to go get my children. And
that was one of the hardest things that I had to endure as a husband. Second hardest thing. First hardest thing was when she had her surgery for endometriosis. And that was the second, because that was, it was nothing that I could do. And I felt like a failure because I could not give her what she wanted. And that was the kids. And it took a toll on both of us.
So whenever that happened, did it make it hard for you to want to enter that process again? Or did it just set the tone for you to even double down and say, we want to help a child?
We had to.
I would say it was a combination
of both. But we took a break. We had to.
We
was angry
and focused on us.
Right.
Focused on us helping each other heal.
Because I was angry. I had a lot of anger in me.
I had a lot of,
and I didn't know how to process it at that time.
I was angry and I wanted to give up. And but me and her husband, I wanted to be strong for her and help her through this process, because I knew that it was very difficult for her because of the simple fact she couldn't have kids. And for that to happen, I knew that was probably the worst thing in her life at that moment that she went through.
It was.
And, you know, like she said, even that day she told him, you all go home with your kids, but we go home with nothing.
Yeah, like I was angry at the world. Everybody's like, it's gonna be blah, 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 it'll be okay. I'm like, no, you're going home with your children. You can have another child if you want. Take that. And we knew in our hearts that as much as we would have loved to help a child in foster care, it wasn't going to be beneficial to them or to us, because we couldn't take that heartache, and we'd be walking on eggshells all the time. Like, is this going to happen again? Is this?
You were ready for a permanent family,
right?
That you could make lifelong plans with.
In 2019, we decided, okay, we're ready, and we're ready to start the adoption process, and that's where it gets fun and tricky, and it
right, because you have to try to figure out what agency or where you're gonna
go. Are you gonna go through an agency? Are you gonna go through a private adoption via a lawyer, or are you gonna put yourself out there and market yourself on Facebook that you're a family wanting to adopt, and hey, if you're pregnant, you want to give up your child, contact us. But then you got to worry about people defrauding you and taking your money, and then at the end they decide
this is not what
that's not what they want. And that's with adoption, it's the same thing. Adoption is in the state. We went through Catholic Charities. So when you're picking adoption agencies, you have to do your research on the agency. And I'd gone back and forth between Catholic Charities and this agency, and I prayed about it, and I told him, I said, it's not in my heart, it's not sitting right. Something's not sitting right. God is telling me we need to go back to Catholic Charities. And so we made the decision, we're gonna go to Catholic Charities, and we did that in 2019, and it's a process.
So how long did it take from the time you said, okay, I'm signing up with Catholic Charities, we want to use your services, until they said, we have found a match?
Started 2019.
We started at the end of 2019.
Yeah, it was 2021.
And we were literally approved in March of 2021. And we got the call on April 6th. Our social worker called, and I remember the phone ringing. I was at work. I was sitting at my desk. I was getting ready to go to North Carolina for my cousin's wedding the next day. And the phone rang, and it said her name, and I'm like, she normally calls. She does not call. She will email or she will text. And I knew when I saw her number, I'm like, oh oh my God, I wonder. And she's like, hey, Amy. I'm like, hey. And she's like, we have a baby that was born yesterday, and we'd like to show your profile. So Kinsley was born 5 weeks early, and she was born addicted to heroin. And she was in the NICU, but she was doing very well, and they were treating her withdrawals with morphine because she had the shakes. So she's like, talk it over with Sam, and then call me back and let me know what you guys decide. So I called him frantically, and then called everybody, my mama and my sisters, and we've done our research on the effects of drugs in utero, and my sister is a drug and abuse counselor, so we talked it over with her, and they said her withdrawals weren't very bad, so they don't think she used the entire pregnancy because she had no other symptoms but the shakes. So they don't think and she said she did not use the entire pregnancy, which they kind of believed her because of how well she was handling, and she was weaning off slowly. So we said, yeah, please show her.
So where was Sam whenever
he was at work?
Whenever you found out?
I was at work.
And so what happened?
Oh, when she called me and she was like, man, guess what? Well, she was like frantic, and I was like, what's going on? What happened? Because I thought something had happened, like her dad was sick or her mom was sick, something happened to her, and I was like, what happened? And she's like, they got a baby for us. I was like, what? Say what? And she was like, the adoption agent just called and said that there's a baby and they want to show our profile to the mother. I said, what? I was like, so wait a minute, tell me this again. And she explained everything again. And I said, so what's the next step? And she's like, they have to show our profile to them, and she has to accept it. So we got a baby? No, they have to accept it. So when we gonna be able to bring the baby home? And she was like, Sam, she has to accept us, and she has to sign over the document. So we don't have a baby.
No, because the birth parents essentially choose you. You don't share the book Wednesday afternoon, and she called me early Wednesday evening, and she's like, she chose y'all. She doesn't want to see any other book. She doesn't want to see any other family. She said there's just something that felt right with y'all, and she chose y'all. And so then it was
So then did you call him?
yeah, I called him, and I'm like, she chose us. So,
And where were you?
I was at work again.
And so what
Right.
did you do?
So I was kind of like, wait a minute, what? And I was so excited that I wasn't processing everything that she was telling me. So by the time I was like, when I finally processed everything, my question was, so when we bring her home? And she was like, we have to wait. They have to sign the papers. And I was like, so we don't have a baby. And she was like, Sam, you're making me nervous. Stop. And I was like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. This is new to me, just like it's new to you. So what is going on? She was like, she chose us. We have to wait, and she has to sign the paperwork. Once they do that, then they're gonna let us know when we can go, and then we'll be able to bring her. And I was like, so when is this gonna happen? And she's like, I don't know.
So she was still in the NICU, I'm guessing.
yeah, she was in the NICU.
How long did she live in the NICU?
Until we took her home.
It was what, 2 weeks?
She
No,
was 5 weeks early.
so she was born on April 5th, and we brought her home that following Friday. Not that same week, but the next Friday, because she didn't. The plan was,
They actually said that she was supposed to be in there for a month,
yeah,
but we believed because, and I'll let her tell that side of the story, but we believe God had a different plan because of when we got there.
yeah. So she had her Monday, so it was Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Didn't they have like a storm or
No, so they scheduled it for Monday that she would sign for like we're signing papers Wednesday, and she's like, I am not gonna call you until we have these papers signed. And
no, she ain't telling you it was that them 2 days we both was like just a wreck.
Because you're waiting, you don't know.
And I was like, this woman's gonna change her mind, man. And she was like, it's just not meant to be. It's not meant to be. We're not gonna have a baby. I said, stop. We're gonna have it. This is just let's just pray on it.
I remember sitting in the because we had done her nursery. We did a gender neutral nursery, and I remember sitting in the rocking chair, and I would pray, and I would say my rosary, and I would pray in that room.
And I would hear her crying.
And I would pray like even before we found out about her, but those 3 days of waiting for her to sign her rights away, I would sit there and I would just pray, and I would just sit in that room.
And like I said, I would hear her praying, and she would start crying because we were so close, but it felt so far.
Yeah, it's like right there in your grasp. And then, so Wednesday comes around, and I sit there all day until the phone rings at 4:00 again. And I'm like, please. And she goes, Amy? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, congratulations. You can go to the hospital. Her paperwork has been signed. I lost it. I couldn't even breathe. I called him. I'm like, you need to leave work. She signed the papers. She's ours. And
I was at work. I said, I gotta go. I got a baby now. I gotta go. And they were like, what you mean? I said, we just got a baby. We just finally, I gotta go. And they was like, go do what you gotta do.
Did they know you were in the adoption process?
They knew. Yeah, I was open with them about it. And they were like, I commend you because that's a very special thing that y'all doing. And so I was like, okay, where's the hospital? And it was literally around the corner from my job.
But he had to come and get me because we had to go together.
Yeah.
And then everybody was mad because it was COVID, so only we could go.
How did faith play a role in this? Like when you were praying and you said, you definitely knew that there was faith involved and she got to come home early and those things. How did you draw on your faith through this time?
It was hard, but because we were so close with God and so close with each other, we will keep each other strong during this time. We'll pray every night before we go to bed, every morning. I remember that morning, the day of the sign, when she was signing, we said a prayer. And when she got the call and said that we can go, I just knew, like I said, it was meant to be at that point. And when we made it to the hospital, my hands were sweating. I was like clammy. I was nervous. She could barely hold herself together. She was nervous. She was like, come on, we gotta go meet our baby. We gotta go meet our baby, our little baby. And we got on the elevator. And as we were going up, I was just like getting more and more nervous. And I was like, and she's like, this is finally happening. I was like, yes. And when we walked in the hospital and we walked to the desk, we said, Amy and Sam and Cavalier. And they looked at her and they looked at me and they said, she been waiting on y'all. Yeah. And when she said that was it for both of us.
Yeah, you had to put your trust in God, that it was his plan and it was his will. And you had to let go, and you just had to have faith, and you had to pray. And the adoption process is long, and I know there's people that started the process at the same time of us, and people have been waiting on wait lists for 5 years for a baby. But it's in his time. Everything is in his time. This was predestined, and God knew this was gonna be our life and how we were gonna get our child before we even knew each other, before we even knew we wanted to be parents. So it was based faith in the Lord, and keeping our faith in prayer and the support of our family, our friends, our community, both of our employers that made it, helped us. And we had people to lean on, and we had a support system besides having our faith. We had a support system. We had backing that we could lean on, and that when we were frustrated and it was long and it was this, they would let us vent and everything, and just be there for us. But like he said, when we got there and they said, "She's been waiting for you," and she was so T90. I remember holding her,
and she
went like this, like she looked, when they look and they blink and then they look real good, and she just looked at me and our eyes met, and it's like she looked at me and said, "Mommy, where have you been?" And
she started crying.
I was ugly crying, because when she looked at me and our eyes met,
we both were crying at that point.
Oh, it was unbelievable.
Matter of fact, all three of us, even Ken's was crying.
Yeah, our social worker was crying too. Yeah.
It was, the nurses started crying, because it was just, people say, and no, we haven't experienced what childbirth in the natural sense is, but it was in that situation, that was our closest thing to childbirth. And it is one of those situations where you cannot explain it.
No.
It's instant, unconditional love at that moment.
When she opened her eyes and just looked, like she did that little blinky thing, and she looked again, and the little eyes squinted, and she looked at me, and I was just like, that was it. Like, that was my whole heart and soul. Like, that was me and her connection. That was, I'm your mama. Like, and it's like she knew.
And then
she knew.
And when I held
can't describe it.
When I held her, it was like she really fit in the palm of my hand.
Because she was tiny. She was only 5'5" when she was 5 pounds, 5 ounces.
So, I was holding her and just, it was, because I felt like I was going to break her, so I was trying to be as gentle as possible. And funny thing, I was like, I said, "Oh, she done pooped." And so they was like, "Mom, you want to change it?" "I got it."
Oh yeah,
So I hurried up. I went and changed her. I said, "Daddy was the first one to change you."
Yeah. And then unfortunately, we had to leave her.
That was the hardest. That was one of the hardest things, because we wanted to stay, but they said we couldn't stay at that time
because of COVID. And then they had one private room where parents can stay the night, and it was being used. So we had to leave. Oh, but I was right up in there 6 o'clock the next morning, and then they told me, they're like, "The room is available tonight if you want to stay."
So they said, "One of y'all who wants to stay?" And I looked at her,
and he said he wanted to stay. How would you stay and not me? I am the mom.
And I said, "I'm just clowning." For her, I said that was for her. That's her moment, her time. She could stay.
And they told me to go home and get my stuff and bring her car seat back, because if she passed her car seat test, we would be able to take her home Friday. So
she wasn't on any oxygen or anything?
No, and at that time, she had gotten off the morphine over the weekend, and her shakes weren't that bad, and they were then treating, when she had the little trembles, treating her with like sugar water.
So when she came home, did you have to do any special treatment for her?
Just maybe a week. She had a couple of trembles, and we'd give her squirt the little sugar water in her mouth, and she was fine.
I was going to say, and so why I said God had a different factor in that, because they gave her a month in that, and as soon as she seen us, it was like she instantly
she was like, "I'm good."
She instantly got us, like it was like she was getting herself stronger and ready for us to come home, because that same week, like she said, we ended up bringing her home. Well, she brought her home that Friday. I was at work, but it was like they said, she was like, "Well, she's be prepared. She may be in here for a month. And we was like, okay. So I was kind of nervous. I was like, what are we going to do for a month now? And like I said, when we seen her and she stayed with her, it was like, I don't know, it's like God and our love just healed her. And she got strong and she was ready to come home.
Oh yeah, it wasn't then, like I told you before, it was, I know, and I tell everybody, is my testimony. When Hensley was conceived, God knew where she was going. God knew she was coming to us because Hensley left the hospital looking like my niece, our niece and our nephew. Like our social worker had seen and met all of our family. And she's like, I've been doing this for 20 years. And she said, after years, you know, adoptive kids start looking like their adoptive parents just by, you know, mannerisms and stuff like that. She's like, but I have never had a baby leave the hospital that is so identical to your family. And I told her, I said, it was God. Like, God knew where this child was coming. God knew she was coming to us because anybody who's watching this that knows Kinsley, y'all know she is the spitting image of our family. When I talk about looks, attitude, mannerisms, everything, Kinsley is made over our family. Like, there's the only explanation is God. God knew where that child was going. And
How old is she now?
Kinsley is 3.5. Yeah. Going on 20.
And you mentioned that you didn't birth her and have a normal birth, but when you say, I always think a pregnancy, is 9 months, right? But when you go through the adoption process, talk about commitment. It is a longer labor than it is to carry a child. It's very intent driven. So when people say, I didn't birth them, I'm thinking, oh no, you did way more. Because you chose to go down that path. And it's definitely a calling, I would say, when God puts on your heart that there's a child out there that he's put in this world that needs you. Because while they may have come from a challenging situation, because faith, I've heard you say a lot of things with faith, but one of the things that stands out to what you've said is through that long process, it's sometimes just preparing your heart, I think, for the right one, and then testing to make sure that your intentions are pure and that you're there for the long haul, because parenting is a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
So if you go back and look at it now, you started conditioning, just like if you'd have been in sports. You went through all the conditioning, and that softens your heart, I think, a little more each part of the way, and got you ready for your beautiful daughter that does look just like your family. There's no question about God having a special design for your family.
Yeah.
I would say this. One of the things that we learned during the adoption process, when we was taking those classes, that I think a lot of people have mistakes or have a misnotion of, is that the birth parents are not suitable for their kids. And we learned that it's not the case in every situation. Sometimes it's just circumstances of having too many mouths to feed. Sometimes it's a situation that their lifestyle in which they're living in. Sometimes it's a situation where they don't have that help of family or even the birth father or mother. A lot of times it's about the simple fact that there's a lot that goes into that decision. And you really gone through that process and in those classes, you really take a different outlook on adoption as far as what the birth parent is going through. Because like they told us, your greatest joy is someone's greatest sorrow, pain.
And you will grieve. I grieved for Kinsley's birth mother. just holding her in my arms and thinking like I am overjoyed, I am blessed, I am happy, and I'm in love with this beautiful child. And to know that she gave birth to her and did an unselfish act of knowing she couldn't take care of this child and unselfishly made the decision to say, I'm not going to put her through a life that she does not deserve. So, birth moms that do put their kids up for their babies up for adoption are angels because they are doing right by them and they are also losing a part of them by giving up their child. And they talked about grieving for your birth mother, and that is kind of like when you're grieving as an adoptive parent, it's almost like postpartum have you as a woman giving birth and going through postpartum. There's something in you and you grieve it and you have emotions and there's anger and there's sadness. But it's true. It is adoptive parents can go through postpartum, and most of that is brought on through grieving and worrying about, when my child finds out they're adopted, are they gonna want to leave me? Or when I punish them, are they gonna be like, I wish I was with my real mom? All those things go through your head when you're adopting. All of it. Like, are they gonna want to meet their birth mom and not have a relationship with me? Or, get mad and say, I wish I was with my birth parents. All those things go through your mind, especially when you're holding your baby and you're like, what are you going to be when you're 18? And, so you go through a grieving process. You go through a postpartum process. Even though you didn't give birth, you pretty much go through all the agonizing pains and what ifs that a regular woman that gave birth goes through.
So you told me that you control, as the adoptive family, you control the parameters of what being adopted is going to look like in your family, and that you can choose whether it's an open adoption, a closed adoption, and what that looks like. Would you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. We were afraid of having an open adoption from having the girls before and losing them. And at first I was like, no, I'm not doing an open adoption. I don't want that. And then once we learned and we went through our classes and we learned that the openness of an open adoption, we set the parameters. We set how much communication we want. We set how much contact there's going to be or how often contact is going to be. Everything moves on us. We can have more contact if we want. We could have less contact if we want. We can stop contact if we want. And then I prayed on it and I said, this birth mother is giving me a gift. So in return, the only gift I can give her is being able to see her child grow up or have some sort of comfort that her child is safe and happy and loving. And so we decided to, go for an open adoption. And open adoptions are far more common now than closed adoptions. They still have closed adoptions where there's no contact, but a lot of your adoptions nowadays are open adoption. So we went with an open adoption, and it was the best thing we ever did.
I love that. So you had Kinley.
Kinsley. Yeah, Kinsley.
And then she had a sibling. She had an older sibling. And so I like your story about what y'all decided to do with that relationship from the beginning. Would you share the choices that y'all made?
Well, Amy was having more contact with as far as Kinsley's birth grandmother and sister than I was. At that time, I still wasn't 100% on board with it, but I was trying to get myself to accept it because I still had the fear. She and usually I'm the opposite. She usually had the fear, and I'm the one who's more mellow. But in this situation, the roles were reversed, and so she was talking to her Kinsley's grandmother and sister, um, and she was told me that she spoke to him on the phone, and I was a little upset, but I was also a little worried because I was in my mind I was like, you're opening up the door for, and I guess for me it was due to our first situation with the kids. I was more like, you open up the door for them to come in and take it from us, or
which they couldn't.
They couldn't, but in my mind, that's what I was thinking. And so I was like, so what does she want now? What do we have to do now? And she was like, you have nothing to worry about as far as we want to take it. I first want to know, are you comfortable with this? And I'm like, I'm really not, but since you already done this, what's going on? Talk to me, let's see. And so she was like, her birth sister wants to meet Kinsley. And I was like, I think you're moving too fast with all of this. And she was like, she wants to have a relationship with her sister. She wants to meet her sister. I don't see nothing wrong with that. She has other siblings that she doesn't really get a chance to interact with. So she wants to have a relationship with her sister. I said, okay, her sister. I'm not gonna do that to a child. Then she was like, her grandmother want to meet her too. And I was like, no, wait a minute. That's too much. You're doing too much. I don't know these people. We can't meet. You're inviting these people in our lives. We don't know nothing about them. Why are you? So, she constantly keep talking to them and get more information about family history, background, medical conditions, and things. And while she was doing that, I was just like on the other side, just shaking my head like, here you go.
So
here we go.
I went ahead and did it, and we conversated for probably about a month before we met them. And Kylie had just turned 15. It was like the first weekend of December. We met. We went and we picked her up. And we went to lunch, and then she wanted to come back with us.
Well, before then, she had FaceTime.
Oh yeah, we did some FaceTime calls.
And when she first met Kinsley, when she first seen her, she started crying. I heard her.
Yeah, she started crying because she actually was there at Kinsley's birth and got to hold her. So she literally broke down in tears. So that first time we met them, and she was like, the same as Kinsley was. It was like she found a home, and we said, you can come back with us if you want and spend the weekend. And she was like, okay. So we went to lunch, and then we went home, and she met all the family, and that was all she wrote. And since then,
I had to say, and what makes our family and friends circles so unique and so special to us, it was a holiday, Christmas, and Amy and I didn't, so much was going on, we didn't even tell them, we forgot to say Kylie was coming. And so when they found out that she was coming, we had already picked and pulled names for buy our kids, our friends' kids Christmas presents, and her name wasn't in it. And so what happened was, when they found out that she was coming, everybody went out and bought something for her. So when she came, she was receiving gifts like all other kids.
Yeah.
Same thing for our families as far as the holidays go.
Nobody treated her any
Everybody
different.
went out there and bought stuff for her and made sure she had a great Christmas that year as well.
And she's never, ever had a Christmas like that. And some Christmases she didn't even have presents.
And that is what I say makes our family and group of friends so special, especially in our life, is because they knew she was important to us, and she became just as important to them. Mm-hmm. And that says a lot about what love and true love is with people. That they can love you so much that they can also extend that same love to the kids, and even to a kid that they didn't even know up until that moment. But they wanted to make sure that she experienced the same joy that all the other kids came. So she wasn't uncomfortable or felt left out.
Yeah, because she was very, very shy, very quiet when we met her. Very reserved, didn't speak to, even if you walked in the house, she didn't speak. But she was one brought up differently. I think it was a bit of a culture shock to her. And then she started coming every weekend. School breaks, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Mardi Gras, Easter. She'd spend every school break with us, summer vacations with us. And she would, school events, we had to go to friends and parents of the friends. This is my mom and dad. And she'd have to explain why she has blonde hair, blue eyes, and mom and dad don't look nothing like that. So that would go through school. I remember she had to do an assignment, and it was decorate your locker with your family and blah, blah, blah. And
it shocked me because
it was us, Kinsley, and our dog. It
shocked me because I was like, wow, she really think of us like that.
Yeah, and then it was introducing family. All her friends knew us as mom and dad. Parents of the friends, I would meet them. This is my mom, and I'd talk to them about certain things that the kids were doing. So it became that she was our daughter, no matter what. And now we tell everybody we got a 2-for-1. Because we paid for one, but we got two. We got a 50. Well, at the time she was 15. Now she's about to be 18, and she just recently moved in with us over the summer, and is doing well. She's not the same child 3 years ago. No.
She came and moved with us, and
even before she moved with us,
I told her, I said, you have transformed into a whole complete different person. She's more talkative, more outgoing. She's more like just...
From a girl who didn't speak to a girl who won the state championship in prepared speaking and speech writing for Junior Leaders of America or something she was in at school, to being the 2024 Miss Harvest Festival queen and traveling all over Louisiana, and talking in front of all these people, to a girl who has confidence in herself and who is beyond smart, from a girl that had a rough life and has seen a lot and been through a lot that no child should go through, who has always maintained a 3.0 or higher grade average, has always been on honor roll, has always been in extracurricular activities. She is a testament to people, and she and I told her birth mom and her birth grandmother a couple months ago that she has broken a generational curse, and she truly has. She truly has. From a child who also hated going to church, did not believe in God, who does not miss youth group on Wednesdays, does not miss Sunday morning Bible study, hates to miss church. If there's something on, I gotta go to church, or that's youth group. To a girl who said, buy me a Bible. Because we had, when she finally moved in with us, we had the talk. I talked to her and I said, the reason why you're here is because of God. God knew when he placed Kinsley in our life, that you were going to come along. God, this was your plan. This was your destiny. This was your journey in life. God knew you were going to need us and we were going to need you. So this has been pre-planned, and the only reason it is because of God. And I remember that Sunday in church, our pastor was going over, and she looked at me and she said, yeah, it was him. It was him. He did it.
So she came and she was like, this is my room. We had another bedroom that we were using for storage, and she was like, I want this room to be mine. So Amy told me she's coming, so we gotta get it ready. So
never had a bed. Always slept on a mattress on the floor.
So we went in and we cleaned that room up. I painted it, fixed the floors. I put a lot of work in it. And
within a week, done everything.
And Amy decorated it.
No, she helped me. She picked out her stuff, and it was one of them Amazon Prime days, and I got everything very cheap.
But when she seen her room and just looked at everything, me and Amy's sister put a bed together, everything, and she walked when it was pretty much finished. Other than the decoration, she came in and she got emotional.
She cried. She said thank you, and she doesn't always. She'll say thank you, but there's, if you like kids that don't express themselves, she has a hard time of showing emotions and expressing, and she's better at it now, but for a long time she had a hard time with expressing her emotions, but you always knew her true feelings and her gratitude because it would show. So she showed that she was appreciative. We also bought her first car in May, and we pulled up to her house where she lived with her grandma, and she walked out and she just put her head down and started crying, because I was like, it'll be a while, we're looking. And meanwhile, I've been had the car, we're looking. I said it'll probably be, September, October of your, when you start senior year, you'll get it. And then she told my sister, my sister said, what kind of car you want? She's like, it does not matter. She said, I'm going to be appreciative of whatever I get. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what color it is. I'll have a car to get me back and forth to school and work. And I was like, all right. And she was not expecting the type of car we bought her. She was not expecting the car then. We got her. The tears. The girl cried for like 24 hours. Oh, she cried for 24 hours because she said, she's like, I never would have thought 3 years ago I would have a car. I never would have thought 3 years ago I would have the life I have now. From having nothing to having everything. And she works hard for it. We just don't hand out to her. She has proven herself, and she has worked so hard in her grades and just her growth in life to the young woman she's becoming, to finally picking a major, and she is going to go to law school.
So what would each of you say to somebody that's maybe at home, maybe they've been told that they can't have children, or they've tried and they've had miscarriages, or whatever has happened that they've not been able to have the family that they thought they'd have the way they'd have it? What would your words to them be?
My first thing would be to put God first. That is the most important thing. That is one of the things that help you get through all trials and tribulations in life. My next thing would be to support each other, because without her, excuse me, without my wife, I wouldn't be able to be half the man that I am today. Without my family, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I can do today. I'm very appreciative of them. and I don't take them for granted. I don't take anything that God has given me for granted. Um, they are truly what make me go forward in life. In and all things that I have to endure, it is worth it for them. Um, that would be the first two things that I would say. You know, God first and each other. And do your research. First thing, figure out what is it that you're looking for. If you're looking for adoption, or if you're looking for um, fostering. Once you figure those things out, then do some more research, because sometimes the first step may not be the correct step. You may have to take a step back. You may have to take 2 steps back, and to get on the right path. But never forget to keep God along with you in that journey, and never forget that you're going through this together, not alone, but together. And it's a rough journey, and you have to rely on each other through that journey.
Well, ditto on that, but again, first thing is to have faith in God and put your trust in Him, because He will get you through it. And if it is not meant for you, He will reveal why and bring you some other type of child into your life. Also, patience. Have patience. Knowing that it is a long process. It is hard, and have grace for yourself, because you will get angry and you will get frustrated in all aspects of it, whether it's the paperwork, the financials, the choosing what type of child you want and saying yes or no to this or that. Have grace, have patience, have understanding about the entire adoption process before you go into it and make a decision. Have a full understanding of the entire process from A to Z while doing your research and making your decision on which avenue you're going to go through. And make sure it's in your heart. Make sure that is what you want to do. Make sure that you are going to be mentally, emotionally prepared for the long haul. Even though you might get frustrated, and you can't really mentally prepare yourself, I would say, but just be there in that mind frame to be ready to go through that long haul. And again, lean on your support system, your significant other. And if you're out there and you're doing it by yourself, because there are adoptive parents that are single and adopt on themselves, lean on your social worker. There are many adoptee groups on social media that I found very helpful, that gives good support and a listening ear and a venting ear where you can just vent on there and you don't have to vent to your family and your friends. And but God, understanding, patience, grace, and knowing that your baby's out there. They're out there. That baby's waiting for you, and God is gonna bring you your baby when it's time and when that baby's supposed to be in your life. And to any mothers, pregnant mothers out there that are struggling with do I give my baby up for adoption, or do I terminate my pregnancy, or do I keep it and struggle? Do your research. do your understanding and find the understanding and find the grace to make that selfless act of giving your child up, because they're always going to be your child. They're always going to be in your heart. That is always going to be your child. You are just choosing to give them a better life. You are choosing to make sure that they grow up and their needs are met. And you are giving somebody a gift of life that they may not be able to have. Don't pay attention to all the stereotypical things about adoption and you'll never see your kid and this and that. You get to choose who you give your baby to. You get to choose those people who are gonna be your child's parents. So put your faith in God and think, and don't make any rash decisions until you know. When you read that book, they always say, birth parents that, we've talked to through our counseling, through our agency, they said it's an undescribable feeling. When you know that is my parent, that is who my child is meant to be with. So give yourself that and do your research and know that you don't have to turn to other avenues for help. There's help for you. There's support for you. And there's support to help you in your baby. And just, that's it. Just God, understanding, research, grace, and patience.
That when you plant all those seeds and they're grown, the things that you hear back, you know that you planted that seed and the Lord planted the seed, and we water it and we make sure it gets the right amount of sun, and all the things. But at the end of it all, if you're consistent and stay true to that, they come back and they realize, if not right away, which it sounds like y'all see a lot of fruits already, but after they have their own children and they realize the sacrifice that it really was, then it's a whole nother level of, wow, you did that for me.
Yeah.
And I think as we can be like that with our own parents, right, that naturally birthed us.
Oh, yeah.
But those adoptive children see that on another one. And our adoptive daughter says, I was chosen. So, and y'all weren't.
Yeah, I'm
so
the special one.
Cute, you know, to see them pick now that they're of an age. Her saying, your oldest daughter saying that what she wanted in a family. You talked about her wanting to come to y'all because there's certain things she wanted out of the relationship.
The night that she moved in and we were unpacking her bathroom, this child doesn't think I know her, but I know her like the back of my hand. And I'm like, what's wrong? And she's like, nothing. And I'm like, what's wrong? Nothing. Kylie, there's something wrong. What's wrong? And she broke down in tears because she was hurting. She was hurting that, what happened with the situation with her grandmother, and living there and living here. But it was hurt tears, but it was also tears of relief, like, And she said, I'm happy to be here. I feel a sense of relief. I feel a sense of comfort. And she said, I want to say something, but I don't know how to say it. I said, well, baby, just say it. And she said, the other reasons why I wanted to live here and live with y'all is because I know you guys are going to teach me how to live my life right. And you're going to guide me. And you're going to teach me things that I haven't been taught, like how to properly clean and cook and manage my money. And then she said the most gut-wrenching, heartbreaking thing, and we cried for like 15 minutes, and she said, I wanted to live under a roof with my parents and my sibling. I wanted to live in a stable environment with two parents. And I wanted to live with my family. And I wanted to live in a family atmosphere. And that was all she needed to say, because I couldn't breathe after that because I was ugly crying. Um, so she's seen the difference in life, and she's seen us, and she's helped us too. She's taught us so much, and she does. I don't want people to think she doesn't have a relationship with her dad and her stepmom, because she does. And we recently connected with them a couple months ago, and they just wanted her to be happy. And if that was living with us and she was safe and she was happy, then they were happy and they were okay with it. And now we are like one big happy family. It's like we're like, how divorced parents co-parent and have like best. So we have like this best co-parenting.
Because she had a different dad than
right.
your first
She
child.
has a different dad than Kinsley, and he's married, and she has 3 siblings from her dad and that marriage. And now we have all met, and we are close. And Sam and her dad Brent are like 2 and 1, and me and they live in Ascension Parish. So like important events that Darenika, her stepmom, can't come to, I'll FaceTime her, or I'll be like, girl, our child didn't put me through this today, or she didn't did this, or oh, here's the pictures of homecoming week. I'd send her, and while she left for homecoming, they couldn't make it, so we FaceTimed them, so it has turned out to be the biggest blessing, because now she has her parents, and she has them, and we're okay with that. She's okay with that. She's happy. She's got 2 sets of parents that love her unconditionally and will go beyond the earth for her.
And I love that y'all glow.
Yeah.
As a result.
Kinsley asked her today, she said, what's your other mama name? And she said, Darenika.
Yeah. So, but it's worked out, and we love it. And I love having a relationship with them and doing this whole co-parenting thing, because everybody needs a village. And if your village is bigger, then more power to you, because we got a big village, and to add them to our village is amazing. And we love them, and like, can't say enough about them. And now we're just one big blended family. Like, as they say in Louisiana, we have a big old melting pot of gumbo and got a little bit of everything in it. And it works for us. It may not work for everybody, but it works for us. And you, as an adoptive parent, or you as a birth mom making that decision, it's going to work. It's going to work, and you're going to figure it out with your adoptive family. And you're going to make it. And you're going to have happiness, and you're going to have sadness, but it's going to work. And it all is for that one child, or in our case, the 2. We got the 2 for 1.
I love that.